What is going on, guys? In today's video, I'm talking about the hidden cost of injury. And a lot of people, when they think about injuries, they only consider the physical aspect of it, and that is the structural, damage that's been done. So this can be anything from traumatic to more gym-based movements where we're in pain, which is really affecting us in a severe way. Doing what we want to do, whether that be a hobby, a sport, or just training, but it's basically interfering with our life. And as I said, people just think of it as like the physical thing, but there is another source of pain, and that can hit a lot deeper. And it's the mental battle that comes along with having an injury. And it's very difficult for a lot of people to navigate this, especially if this is, the first time they've had an injury that's quite severe, and it's injury that's really impacted their life and also, their training and their sport. Okay, so I'm going to talk about in this video basically the three traps that people get caught in and how to sort of navigate your way out of these traps. Okay, so by the end of this video, you're going to have a really good understanding of what the common sort of things people go through, and then also ways on how to escape that and to move forward and make the best out of a bad situation. Okay, so the first thing is an identity crisis. Okay, so this sort of encompasses a lot of the different sort of mental traps, which we'll go over in a sec. But it's a bit of like, who am I without this? Who am I if I can't play sport? Who am I if I can't train, if I'm not strong, etc. Okay, and this goes a bit to my sort of story. And as you can see here, this is my shoulder dislocated, and this happened the end of last year. And this was probably the most significant injury I've had. And when this happened, I really felt like a bit lost immediately afterwards. I had to really, take some time for it all to sink in. And I knew the damage I'd done, and it really affected me mentally, and it really put me down in the dumps, and almost like there was just no positive outlook on my life anymore. So this is something that I have gone through recently. I've gone through before, but this was definitely the most traumatic. Okay, so going through the mental traps, these are again things I battled, and the first one is comparison. What would be my comparison is you're comparing yourself to other people. So other people in the case that are still able to, play the sport or train. And on social media, we're unfortunately sort of surrounded by seeing other people's lives, other people's highlights, and obviously other people still training and people still, be able to play whatever their chosen sport or hobby is. So we almost compare our situation to theirs. We can't do that, they can, and it's very hard to get through that. Okay, so the second thing is self-worth, and this is going back to the identity crisis where our self-worth is built upon being that strong person or looking a certain way or being really good and really sort of known for a certain sort of sport. Okay, and it's like, I'm not enough without being able to do this. Okay, and the third thing is isolation, and this for myself is a thing that I've had to constantly work on and sort of notice that I'm doing. And it's basically an isolation physically where we don't want to go out. We don't want to see our friends. We're not as sort of willing to see our family or speak to our family. And it's almost like this thing where it's like no one understands, okay? Like no one understands what I'm going through, how I feel, or, how the situation is affecting me, okay? So those are the main three mental traps. Now, in terms of how to escape it, step number one, which is honestly the hardest thing, is acceptance, okay? Like, this is life. Unfortunately, things like this happen in life. It doesn't define who you are just because of this has happened to you. And the sooner we accept that this is our situation, we can start to go on to the next steps, which is trying to sort of repair our mind and find, things that we can move forward with. Okay, so brings me into the second point, which is like, what can you do? So it's easy to focus on what you can't do. Like if you've hurt your back, we know pretty badly, then you can't deadlift a squat or anything like that. If you've, in my case, hurt your shoulder, then you know that things like pressing, overhead pressing, or any upper body stuff are things that you might not be able to do specifically straight away, but you can focus on what you can do. So using the case of the shoulder, I can train lower body. There might be things that I can do upper body wise where my elbow's nice and close that I can still, work on. There might be some simple low stim rehab drills that I can do. So focusing on what you can do as opposed to what you can't is a very, very big thing. There might be a time for you to work on other things as well, which can be outside of the gym or outside of training or sport. Okay. So this can be things like self-improvement, personal development, looking at things that you would normally not do because, you're already training or you're doing your sport. Okay. And the last thing really in this 3 is rebuilding with patience. Okay, so often what I see is people rushing to try and get back to playing, or rushing to get back into heavy squatting, heavy deadlifting, or their normal sort of bodybuilding style training. And we don't want to rush this process. Okay, we want to make sure that we're following the steps in the rehab process. We're not sort of rushing forward to try and we're trying to go against the temptation to basically get back to where we were. Okay, ultimately we want to use this time when we're injured as a time to learn. Okay, so can we learn from this injury? Obviously, if it's a more traumatic sort of incident where you've twisted or fell and then hurt yourself, there's a little bit less really to learn there than if it's more of like something that's been chronic, something that's been like whispering sort of in your body, where it's been slightly painful, but you can sort of get through it. And then it's become something that's significantly painful, or significantly like you've damaged something significantly. What can we learn from this? What do we need to work on? What do we need to improve? Okay, so that is the end of that. I hope you got something out of this video. Please be sure to subscribe, as we're releasing a lot of other videos like this talking about topics similar. So hope you got something out of it, and talk to you all soon.